So podcasts, they're getting out of hand. It feels like at this point, everybody needs to give their opinion on everything. And you might say, you're making a commentary video, that's kind of ironic. But some of these podcasts, they take it to a whole nother level. And recently, the biggest example of this is the Growing Paynes podcast. If you don't know what it is, lucky you, but I get it on my feed like every day. And maybe that's a reflection on me, but I'm trying to escape this and I just can't. I've done a few videos on alpha hustlers recently, and they always tell me to face up to my problems. So today, I'm going to be an alpha. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be watching these clips and I'm going to see why this podcast is so popular. Is it genuinely class or is everyone just taking a piss out of it? I don't know yet, but let's find out.
I just don't like it, man. You know what I'm like. I'm very much like when I'm with you,
you're with me.
You're with me, yeah. And I all encompass you.
Yeah.
And you should do the same with me. No one else gets a look in.
Yeah.
I don't like a boy best friend either.
No, he wouldn't even want to threesome.
No, not.
His eyes look sad.
So this was the first clip that I saw of this podcast, and I feel like it kind of summarises the whole thing perfectly. They're talking about threesomes and their infant daughter is crawling around on the floor in the background. It's either a cinematic masterclass or it's a disaster. I can't actually tell which, but the way he looks at the floor at the end, he might be hurting. Now looking at the comments, a lot of people have picked up on this. I mean, you got this guy here, he has got an anime profile picture, so maybe take his opinion with a pinch of salt. Yeah, actually, never mind, you know, if I'm sharing opinions with anime profile pictures, maybe I'm on the wrong side of history. But honestly, I can't tell if these people are geniuses or victims. The only way to really find out is to watch more clips. And luckily for me, they're all over my feed constantly.
I'm into like medium ugly guys, I'd say. Not you though, you're really handsome.
So why are you with me then?
No, I think you're really handsome.
So why are you with me?
Because you are a bit medium ugly. You have got lazy eye.
I'm medium ugly.
Right, I might have been stretching the truth with that first clip, but at what point does this stop being a joke? Like, if his eyes didn't look sad before, they definitely do now. And halfway through the clip, he actually pulls out his phone. He's probably just ringing up his lawyer, begging for his advice on custody. Like, in the event they split up, will I be able to see my daughter? Surely we can use that first clip of her crawling around in the background of no one watching her. That might give him a chance. But like, being called medium ugly, obviously it's banter. But on such a big platform, that's just funny. And he kind of just has to take it. What can you really say? Like, honestly, I wouldn't expect this from Bazinga. If any of them, I'd expect it from Vicstar. Getting insulted probably is his love language. Like, realistically, he's just happy to be around a woman. But yeah, Ethan, his eyes really do look sad.
Where was he driving? I said, when was the last time that you actually looked at me and thought, fucking hell? And it was about 6 months ago when I was wearing grey joggers. I said, what? Since then, you haven't looked at me and thought...
Right, obviously a disclaimer, but the music in the background makes it so much worse than it actually is. But the fact he remembered something from 6 months ago to like the day, he might be holding that in his mind. This guy, he's like 2 comments away from an Andrew Tate arc. Check out my boy Jake Ricks from a couple of videos ago. He might be able to help you out, my friend.
I think about loads. It comes to my mind and I don't even hesitate to resist. I resist it with ease.
Okay, fairness, he is the man. Not everybody can live up to him. And you know what? I'm probably being way too presumptuous. Like, these two, they probably have a relationship built on really strong stuff. Who am I to even judge based off a few clips? And realistically, it's not like they've done something or made a mistake that is going to make their lives inseparable for the rest of their lives.
Bearing in mind, we wore protection.
A couple of times after like night out or something.
There was one, and this is why I think the one time we get a bit adventurous.
Naughty.
Literally what dog eat.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm just going to have to pause that clip. I'm so glad they included this detail. When I log onto TikTok, I want to know everything about everyone's lives. This type of detail, it's just so important to the story.
And then afterwards, do you remember, you looked at it and we was like, bit on the outside. You was like, oh, it should be fine though, and everyone got on with it. I genuinely think it works back to that.
Well, at least the fact that their kid was a mistake is now ingrained into the internet forever. And lucky for them, also, they're going to know that they were conceived via doggy style. And I don't think any human ever is biologically equipped to know this information. Like, the internet should not exist. It results in things like this. And this podcast, it's just doing shit like this every episode.
Who has the highest sex drive?
You.
By how much?
By quite a considerable amount.
Well, that's because I'm attracted to you more then.
That's just sex drive. That's
with you.
With me.
Yeah.
That voice break, it says 1,000 words. After the medium ugly comment, this guy, he's just making sure at every opportunity.
Thanks very much. That feels really nice.
It would if we did it, yeah.
Is this like a podcast or is it just marriage therapy? At this point, I don't even know. It feels like every episode or every clip that I watch, a new issue comes up. Like, obviously, these clips are great for views. People do want to see this shit, but it doesn't necessarily mean you should. Like, I'm not even sure if these guys talk off camera. Now, I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but I do actually reckon we're like 3 episodes away from her being called a colleague.
Former colleague, though. Like,
I said he was my friend, but he said no. I would put you
in the capacity I see you lot now, it's way more of a work colleague than it is a friend. That's sad.
So obviously this clip is kind of old. The situation was already cleared up. The guy sat next to here, Toby Jizzle, he was there for Ethan when he was suicidal. So whatever way you look at this clip, it's fucked up. And by the way, this isn't me saying that Ethan is a bad guy. I think clearly he is a good friend, but the point here I'm trying to make is if you talk enough on a podcast rather than real life, it's just going to produce shit like this. Nothing good can come from these podcasts. We just need to stop them at this point. But unfortunately, maybe fortunately for this video, there are plenty more clips to look at.
I have to ask for a hug.
You don't have to ask for a hug.
I do.
No, you don't.
I say, give me a hug.
No, you don't have to do that. I hug you and I kiss your forehead. I do lots of nice things.
Lie detector, please.
I do it, don't you? You're stitching me up.
So the eyes, they speak more words than a mouth ever could. In his eyes, they're just screaming for help. Like, while it's obviously contextually important to kind of note that this is a podcast and they know they're being recorded, it is probably all jokes. But the truth is often veiled in jokes, and I feel like this podcast, well, it's acting like a vehicle for these grievances to come out. And it's important to note that ultimately, I'm just a random guy on the internet. My opinion basically means nothing. But just going off the facial expressions alone, it's clear that like dirty laundry is just being aired on this podcast and that they could really have these conversations off camera. But I'm not the target audience. You know, people do watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, so anything is on the cards. People are obviously entertained by this because it's everywhere in the algorithm. I think deep down, really, I'm enjoying it myself. The fact that the algorithm is giving it back to me, I must really be loving these clips. Like, honestly, the only thing that could damage my enjoyment at this point, well, it's if this podcast became like political and became like a vessel for man versus woman debates.
Ethan says he won't propose to me because I want to be Kelly Payne.
Faith doesn't want to take my name, and that irks me.
Shit.
He won't propose to me because
Faith doesn't want to take my name. If you want to be my wife, then be my wife.
You see, this is what I feared, not the content, the reaction. When it comes to these topics, True Geordie, he's an Avengers level threat. It's like a shark when it smells blood. He hears the word man and woman in the same sentence and he just goes mental. And to be honest, I blame Ethan and Faith. The Growing Paynes podcast has created this discourse and it's ruining my life.
We're always taught as men that we have to compromise for women's needs and what women want. The wedding cake, you want the wedding dress, you want the Disney story, but what about what we want in return?
Hey, True Geordie, you better back off, buddy. Nah, but in all seriousness, we have established that he is an Avengers level threat. If he saw me on the street, I'm like one punch away from flying through like 3 buildings. This is not beef that I want, so I'm gonna quickly move on. And it's with that point, it's probably best to start to wrap up the video. Like, in all seriousness, this podcast in isolation is actually fine, but at the same time, it is just so funny, and not everything needs to be said online. Like, in real life, you probably know someone that just posts everything online, and this podcast just is that person. Like, there are things in your life that you don't need to let everyone know.
So obviously Ethan scored. You've all heard about the reward where Ethan gets a blow if he scores.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. It gets to the point where if you're sharing everything online, it just can't do anyone any good. I'm sure you'll get views whether they're for good or for bad, but there has to be a point where you're like, should I share this? But either way, if they keep making them, I can maybe get a video out of it, so the content cycle will never die. And it's with that I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and a comment if you've enjoyed, and if you're still here, you know what? Maybe even drop a sub too. But with that, I'm going to go start a podcast where I air out all of my dirty laundry in a bit.